here, live at the Cookbook Restaurant and Lounge, here with Excuse the Duval and Me live talk show after our snafu we had here just now.
It wasn't no snafu. Camo got evil juju going on. Get that man his wings, man.
But we are back here with our special guest that's up first, Mr. RAHMAN Johnson. And we were talking about the new Black Hollywood here.
Yeah.
Do you think that the city could support a growing underground, like with the Black Films Matter, when they did that? And I didn't know they had those kind of different events going on, but they were nice.
There is a great artist community, as we all know, all sitting here. There's an amazing, we have artists here in the audience now.
Yes.
It's a great artist community here in Jacksonville that is growing, and especially the film community. I've been lucky, the first movie that I did here was First Time Felon,
Yeah.
but at the time, Pippi Longstockings had just been shot here. They were doing Sequest DSV. I know Michael Wayne Thomas was on that. There was a couple other episodic TV projects that were going on. I can't think of the name of them, but there were a few other episodic TV projects that were happening, and all this stuff. And this isn't the first movie that was the first one I did here, but it wasn't the first one that happened here.
No.
And in fact, I was in Manchurian Candidate. That movie with
Really?
Denzel
With Denzel
Washington, the
Washington?
remake.
Okay.
And we shot it here. Not the whole
Really?
thing, obviously.
Yes, but a portion.
There were some portions of that movie that was
I
shot.
didn't even know that.
That was shot. Manchurian was here. I shot another movie, Sunshine State, with award-winning director John Sayles.
Okay.
That was shot here in Jacksonville. So we've and then this whole area from Savannah down. And Savannah I've done several projects in
So
Savannah.
they stay in Savannah.
They stay busy.
Yes.
And it's because you can have so many different locations, but it takes the creative minds thinking outside of the box and saying that we can do it.
Yes.
Creature from the Black Lagoon, that was shot in Jacksonville.
What, St. Augustine down there?
But it was the area.
It was the area, yes.
All of it, because like with the Pippi Longstockings and those,
Yes.
they were shot in the area, but it's all the First Coast.
Yes, it is. And that's what
We can
highlight.
get back to that. Can it be? I mean, I'd like to one day, I have a buddy of mine in Savannah who was talking about building a soundstage up there. One day, I want to maybe try to find a way to do a soundstage or do some other film stuff and bring it back here.
Yes.
And I'm working on that. I mean,
Yes.
one of the other pieces of history that I found out that I didn't know until a couple years ago, and I'm a graduate of Edward Waters College. How many of y'all remember the Jeffersons?
Yes.
Come on, iconic TV show,
Yes.
part of Black Americana. Do you remember Mother Jefferson?
The little old lady.
The little old lady,
Why
Zara
are you
Cully.
up here talking about that? The lady with the little gray wig on. Because I was just laying in the bed thinking about her the other day, and I wonder why that came up, and now you're in here talking about
How
it.
about she lived, guess what she did for a great deal of her career? She wasn't born and raised here, but she was known as the Dean of Theater in Florida. Guess where she taught?
What's
Edward Waters
Waters
College.
What
She
you
came
say?
here, and for 25 years, before she went to do the Jeffersons,
Yes.
she was at Edward Waters College here in Jacksonville teaching. And
That's
so we've kind of created a
awesome.
Zara Cully Players with theater at EWC. And here's the thing, once she left here and went to Hollywood and was in the Jeffersons and other shows, even though she was older,
Yes.
all she could talk about was how much she loved Edward Waters and what people should come and see what was going on in Jacksonville.
Jacksonville. That's awesome.
Isn't that something?
That
And
is awesome.
She until the day she died. So it was my vision that we honor those people like Zara Cully, who were a part of Jacksonville. Other actors and communicators. People forget, just right up the road, I did a project with I.C. Davis. I.C. Davis was from not far from here.
Really? I thought he was from New York.
No, he lived in New York.
York, yeah.
But he was born in Georgia.
Oh,
So
okay.
this area, it has a lot of
That came up-
historical
yes, it does.
significance. And
Yes,
so
it
I
does.
think we could do something here, and the artist community just has to bind together to make it happen.
Awesome.
I just found that curious because I just got a little re-education on my local Black history. I appreciate it. I would like to state that first.
Facts.
As as a person closer to the younger generation, what can we do to bridge that gap in the education of the Black history? Because like I say, for me being 31 and just now learning this here on this stage, I can imagine there's many more of my age and younger who have no clue of people who could probably be seen as role models or heroes, but give them something to aspire to greater than what their surroundings are.
So the beauty is you guys, and I'm saying us kind of, we're in a different, and I don't know everybody's age, y'all got access to everything, right? When I was coming up,
Yeah,
You're coming up.
You had to put
It
in
wasn't
your
no
work.
internet.
No.
There was no such thing. The internet had not
No
been
YouTube
created.
and
There
be
was
a
no
star
YouTube,
overnight.
no Facebook,
Yeah.
no Twitter. I can just go down a list of the things. So the access to technology. I was on a panel recently, and one of the professors said, y'all need to stay off social media. No, I don't believe that. Don't stay off social media. It's what you use social media for.
Yes.
It's how you use it.
Yes.
If you can use it to be effective, social media brought down governments in the Middle East
Yes.
and gave people a chance at freedom.
Yes.
Social media exposed the Philando Castile case,
yes.
with this young man getting murdered. Thanks to Facebook Live, we were
Yes.
able to watch and see what happened so that the truth could be told.
Yes.
Social media has been a lifesaver.
It just needs to be structured in different ways.
So the answer to your question is, we've got to provide opportunities, and then people like yourself, instead of it coming, because even though I'm still relatively young, I think it's still got to come from folk like you who are saying, I might not know it all, but let's go learn it together. A lot of times I talk to when I'm lecturing or when I'm having a class with students, I'm like, I'm not gonna just tell you everything. I lecture Socratically, so I'm always asking questions.
Yes.
Right? Because I want you to go get it for yourself. Don't get it because I tell
you to get it. Exactly.
And don't get it because I'm going to tell you and you write it down. Well, Mr. Johnson said, no. Go say, well, I discovered when I read in this space, and here is why I know the thing now. So
Education.
It's up to you to say, telling anybody that you come in contact with. And I ain't saying you got to preach to them. Let's have a good time. We can still, my classes stay packed. And one of the reasons is because I don't come trying to act like I know it all.
Yes.
I'm here to learn with you.
Yes.
So even though, I got all the degrees and the rank and all that, I consider myself a learning coach, and y'all a learning team, and you can't have one without the other.
Yes.
So let's go get this. Let's discover what we don't know. And every day, I'm discovering not only stuff about them, but stuff about myself.
Yes.
And it makes us have a better relationship so that when they go out, just like you're doing now, they infect somebody else, and it changes the world one by one.
Okay.
Yeah.
Do we have any kind of Screen Actors Guild or anything like that here in Jacksonville or local? So for people who want to get out there and try to get into the acting or...
If you want to be an actor, here's what I recommend. Yes and no. So the Screen Actors Guild, of course, is national, right?
Yes.
There are members of SAG here. I think there are only a few of us that are active SAG members in Jacksonville. But my recommendation, if you want to be an actor, there's an agency here, First Coast Talent, that you can go find them, firstcoasttalent.com. Send them your resume, just a picture. And if you hadn't done anything, just send them a picture and say, hey, I want to act. I've taken classes. This is what I want to do, right? That's how it starts. It's just that simple. Because every director needs a look.
Okay.
They're going by looks. I can't tell you for all of the yeses I've got in my career, and I got resumes, full of pages of stuff that I've done. For every one yes, it's probably 200 no's.
Okay. And keep going, consistency. If that's what you say you want to do.
It's the way I look at it is the talent that I was blessed with is a jewel. Now, I can get mad with you for not appreciating my jewel, but what is that gonna give me, right? I'm gonna show you my jewel. I'm gonna share it with you. And I'm gonna let you look at it, and you may not like it, and that's cool because I know I still got a jewel.
Yes.
But it's
and
not
it's still
cockiness.
valuable to me.
It's valuable to me, and that's a confidence that you have to, walk in.
Yes,
Someone told me before I left here. They said one of my managers at one point said, "Learn to be a big fish in a small pond." Yes. So when you get to a big pond, you already know how to be a big fish.
Exactly.
So when I got to London, when I got to LA, when I'm going to these places, it didn't faze me because
you were grounded already.
I'm good.
Yes.
I'm a meditator. I'm in my space. I try to stay spiritually aware.
Yes.
We all get knocked off, but I'm there. And so you could come at me and tell me I don't want to use you for my movie. Okay. I'm good.
Not why and crying and I'm gonna commit suicide.
Because the reason that you don't use me is the same reason somebody else gonna pick me up for a bigger project.
Exactly.
Yeah.
Exactly.
Yeah.
No, that's awesome. Thank you for sharing that.
Yeah.
And then what was I gonna ask you in regards to, because we were talking about what's going on in regards to local historic people, and we were discussing A.L. Lewis.
Yes.
And all that he had done here locally and in Duval. and maybe does anybody know up here know who A.L. Lewis is? No.
Can we get another history lesson?
I can tell you. I didn't know this question was coming, so this off the dome. I'm gonna try to come off the dome with it.
Yeah.
Anybody want to take a stab?
Huh?
Anybody want to take a stab at it?
I have no
I
idea.
ain't taking no stabs
And,
at all.
and but it's sad that you don't, with all that man did. Because, this month is Black History Month. We're doing Black History 365. And,
But I
just putting people,
I don't blame, it's interesting. I don't blame anybody for not knowing because there was a thirst, and my generation doesn't have it. Our generation, rather, doesn't have it. The generations, of course, behind us doesn't have it.
Yes.
But it was like the 60s and the 70s, and I'm going to go and say I was born in the 70s, right?
Yeah.
I was born in the mid-70s.
Yeah.
And I was at the tail end of that where people were so excited about being black.
Black, yes. Yes.
It was like, what?
Yes.
And it was, you wanted to find out everything you could about, yeah. And so I grew up with, I remember Mom had this, there was a Run DMC, so I'm telling you how old I am. Run DMC came out with this rap called Black History. It was and it was on a cassette tape, but it literally gave it was a 6-minute song of accomplishments that black people had done in America and around the world, right? So, but we don't have that today.
No, you don't.
No one's the last time we really had something talking about black history or blackness was when Melba Moore did Lift Every Voice and Sing, and that was 1990.
He wants somebody to come on and sing that for this month on this show for at least one time. This is Mr. Conscious over here.
Yeah, you got. I mean, we just
He's
celebrated
woke.
120 years.
I wouldn't say that we don't know. I wouldn't say that we don't know enough about our black history. I would say that there's a lot of people have done many things. It's just hard to just be like, oh, okay, this person was this close around to us that did this. Probably heard of it, but didn't know exactly where their heritage and where their roots were. Our kids in the class, they was arguing about who did what in black history, which was crazy. I got it on film, looking at kids argue about who was the best this and the best that, or we had this thing called the Big Five, and we basically challenged our kids, like, who was the best one, who did this and that. And these kids were naming all kinds of people off the top of their heads. So you could, it might look like that, but trust me, there's some kids that really are proud of what we do and what the people who came before us have done.
And we just need to get more of that out.
And put it in. I got to say, Abraham Lincoln Lewis, A.L. Lewis, was because I know you mentioned it.
Yes.
He was the first millionaire in Florida. We're talking about in the late 1800s, early 1900s. And his family and our family have been, his great-granddaughter, Maveen Besh, and I call her Auntie Maveen, the beach lady. I'm sure some of you have heard of the beach lady.
Oh, okay.
That's right. She's royalty. Her sister, who is my Auntie Janetta, Dr. Janetta Besh Cole, who is the president emerita of Spelman College in Atlanta, and the only black woman to be the president of 2 colleges, historically black women's college. She was also the president of Bennett College for Women in North Carolina.
Awesome.
Both his granddaughters, and of course his grandson, John Besh, who lives in Paris, who's an international jazz musician in Paris. But the reason he's so successful, this man who didn't grow up, didn't have a lot of money, A.L. Lewis, Abraham Lincoln Lewis, took the little bits of money he had, partnered with other people, because people that look like you and me, we couldn't get insurance policies to bury ourselves. So, and there was no GoFundMe, clearly, as we know.
As we know.
So when we died, we had to go and try to beg to see if we could get, or pay on time to get the person buried.
Yes.
He then created an insurance company just for black people, because white folk would not insure people of color.
Yes.
So then here's the thing, when you're paying into the insurance system, right, the money is coming in, he then was able to take those funds and give the first mortgages to people of color.
Yes.
So now you could buy a house.
Yes.
Now you had real estate. So that's how he became a multimillionaire. But then, helping folk, we couldn't go to the beach.
No.
Couldn't go to Jacksonville Beach. Couldn't go
What
to
beach do y'all know that's the black beach here locally? What beach do y'all like to ride to? What we used to do right after Easter that's getting ready to come up. What beach you like to go to?
Come on, we all went there.
Fernandina.
And he
American
was a part of
Beach.
Fernandina Beach.
American
Fernandina, where we like
Here
to
is
ride
what he
down
did.
there. You know that's black.
He bought the beach.
Yes.
So I know
Okay.
you know.
Oh, okay.
Yeah,
Well, then you
yeah.
sitting over there.
He
Give
bought.
him the mic if you ain't gonna talk. What
He
you doing?
bought American Beach and named it. But bruh, he named it American Beach
Because
he wanted air. He didn't say this just for black
Just for black
people.
people.
He
He wanted
said
everybody to
y'all
come.
want to say that blacks can't come. We want to say
Everybody
everybody can
can
come because that's what America is about.
Yes.
And made sure that and we're talking affluent people.
Yes.
Black folk had money, beautiful homes on the ocean, beautiful
Yes.
cars.
Who are the people you named off? Who were coming down here? Do you know?
Some of the more famous people like Joe Louis and different people of that area. And time came down. One of the things that why I wanted to mention in the show was I had recently myself learned about it, and I was just so inspired at the fact that, like he said, a person that wasn't that educated or didn't necessarily have, the considerable business savvy that, some people would recognize, figured out a way to help not only himself but us, and he was from here. You know what I mean? And like you see, y'all was like,
and all we see around town is the center that's over there off of
Exactly.
Hotel.
You never probably
Which
knew
is-
what A.L. Lewis Center was named after.
But the
Yes.
building, the building that's now the AME building downtown on Union Street,
Okay.
that's where the Afro-American
African-American.
Life
Okay.
Insurance Company was headquartered.
Okay.
And get this, even deeper, Kingsley Plantation,
That right across from Huguenot, my
down
favorite
from
part.
Huguenot Park.
Yes.
So you know the story. Do we know that story?
No, I need to be enlightened.
So Anta Kingsley she was in, and I don't like to use the term slave because people aren't born slaves.
No, you-
People are stolen and kidnapped and enslaved.
Yes.
So she was an enslaved girl from Senegal. Her original name in Senegal was Anna Majiganjai, right? That was her Senegalese name. She was kidnapped and brought over into slavery. She was bought by Zephaniah Kingsley, who owned the Kingsley Plantation. He was so taken with Anta that he married her
Child.
as a young girl, okay? Anta was so smart that she began to run the plantation. She was a young girl, much younger than the old slave
Yes.
master. He fell in love with her. Now, of course, at that time, there was no black and white marriage.
No.
He loved this woman so much, and she was so smart that he built, it's right out there now. If you go to Kingsley
Yes.
Plantation, he built a separate house quarters right next to the house for her and built a covered walkway to go back and forth between the main house and the house with her.
Lord.
Married her, had children, had mulatto children. Anta Kingsley then became a wealthy woman. He died. Of course, everything was left to her,
Her, yes.
but black folk couldn't own property.
No.
She also owned slaves herself because she inherited slaves and had lots of money.
He didn't free her?
So they got, no, she was free.
She was already
She
free.
owned slaves.
Okay.
You hear me now?
Okay.
She owned slaves. So she took her people and her possessions, went over to Cuba, where she lived, and was still running the plantation while she was over
In
there,
Cuba.
sending information back on what to do, how to trade. Eventually, she was able to come back to the United States. Her home is in Arlington, where she came back, and that's
Okay.
where she ended her life as a very old woman because Zephaniah had long since died.
Yes.
Her great-granddaughter, great-great-great-great-granddaughter, is the ladies I just told you, A.L. Lewis's great-granddaughter?
Yes.
Well, he married the great-great-great-granddaughter of Anta Kingsley.
Well, that's awesome. What
So
you
that
say?
history kinda comes
Come
back.
together.
Yes.
A gumbo.
Yeah.
Lord.
Yeah.
No, I
That's why I
tried
say
to go
they're
to that
royalty.
plantation.
When I
I
tell
tried
you-
to go to the plantation, and I got so overwhelmed just trying to drive back there. I was trying to take my kids, but they weren't open. But just to drive and wind down that road
You
and
see
think
the
about
slave-
being a slave trying to escape. And
They-
you'll just you'll turn around, you'll go back.
That they
because
had
all
the
you do is
slave
look left
huts
or right.
that made out of tabby.
Yes, I wanted to see it so bad.
The
I
actual
couldn't see
slave
it.
cottages are there. And I want us, people say, oh, I don't want to go back there. I don't want to
I wanna see it. I wanna see
we
that.
need to know.
Yes. I don't like just being beat in the head. I want to see another movie that's not a slave movie. I'm sorry. Like the movie I went and saw the other day, The Photograph, shot out to you guys. That was a great love story. It just showed black love. It was a great rom-com, and you
Ain't
you
nothing been
didn't
right
leave
since
out.
Love Jones, right?
No, you didn't leave with trauma.
No, you didn't.
And that's what I loved about it, that you didn't feel traumatic after it. You just felt great. I saw a good movie, just like if you saw something with Jennifer Aniston or somebody. Can we just see our people loving like everybody else? Okay, we go
No,
through.
we have to
go
watch
down-
Love Jones over and
You
Love and
know,
Basketball over and
you
over.
know.
You can't watch it but so many times,
you
right?
know, because we don't have a plethora of films that way. But hopefully something like that will come back to Duval and we'll be able to have something. But that's why we're here, just to talk and be enlightened, to share and to communicate. What you
I
got,
was gonna hit
Jorge?
them with how do we bridge the gap, though.
Speak up.
I was gonna
Please.
hit them with how do we bridge that gap, because like how you said, the kids were unattentive or unengaged. You know, it's something that's potent towards what really directs their future. You know, because you can't really know where you're going till you know where you've already been.
Yes.
And I'm just trying to figure, because I'm a person who grew up interested in history. I did a lot of history reading, so I know of a few spots like not Green Cove, just on the other side of 295 and what is that? San Jose. There's a little mini plantation park back over there as well. There's a lot of those little pockets like all over here in Jacksonville. And I've
Like
been
Greenland
interested-
Road. Used to be all black.
Yeah.
Over there. Yeah.
So like I've been just trying to figure out what is it that we need to do to make it to where it's more engaging, to where they want to being more engaged in their history and be emphatic about it. Like you said that at the time that you guys are growing up, there was a much more interest in that. Like what led to wanting to have
The
that
demise
interest?
of it.
You know, like
It's
there had to be
eroding.
some type of stimuli that drove that interest. Well, what can we do to kind of replicate that kind of stimuli in this day and age?
Like he said, he grew up in a different era. There was no distractions. So the things that they had to see in real life that was outside, that was real life for them.
It wasn't even that. Coming from his era, I know, like, me personally, my parents, I recall they gave me an ebony Black history volume at a young age. And you know what I'm saying? They just,
Yeah.
And
I
I
was
just
just sitting
sat
under
there
that
and I
one.
just would read and learn, you know, for myself. I remember one of the papers I wrote at Cookman, one of my professors accused me of plagiarizing because she didn't think that, you know what I mean? Like, where you know all these people from, you know what I mean? So it was kind of weird in that aspect, but I think that's one of the things that we need to start back at home again. You know,
Right,
like
'cause-
I try to talk to man when you ain't around, or, you know, Ash, and I should do a better job of it being Black History Month, not just for the month, but every day. Start asking them like certain facts about people like A.L. Lewis, and that's why I say that struck such a tone with me, and I wanted to get that in the show this week. So.
Right. My grandfather and my grandmother used to do this thing with me in the summertime where I would have to do math, history, science, and different things every week. I had to do something every week. So when it came to Black history, I had to know different leaders, an inventor, a scientist, a musician. I had to know everything that they did, where they came from, and how it was. It just, like you said, started at home. Everything starts at home.
And here's the short answer to your question is, I know it's Black History Month, but for us, it's Black 366 this year.
Right.
This year, Black 366,
Yeah.
right? And so we've got to integrate it into our everyday lives. And I'll tell you, for me, I told you I'm a meditator, right? Meditation has saved my life. And my belief is that prayer is my conversation to God.
Yes.
Meditation is when I have the space to hear what God's saying to me.
Yes.
And I know some of us, because we're gone, like you just said so eloquently, distractions. Right now, there are so many distractions. And we got to get into that space where we could just be in nothingness
Yes.
so that we can hear what's there.
Hear what God is saying to the church.
And
yes.
I've integrated that into my life. It's a part of me now. Just like going to the gym. It's not, I enjoy working out, or whether I work out at home, whether I'm on the road, on set, whatever I'm doing, that's a part of my life. I think we have to do the same thing with our culture, right? The culture has to also be a part of our life. make it a habit to regularly wear African clothes to around, period, right? And people will ask me, well, what's going on? What are you doing? What's special? I was like, I don't want to be naked today. You know, that's why I got on clothes today. Because I don't want you to think that I have to do something special
To
be
put
black.
this
to
on.
be me.
Yes.
Because this is me all the time. Of course, if I'm going on a job interview or if I'm going to anchor the news, that's not what I'm going to wear. But I still have it with me. But it's okay if I'm going to lecture or going somewhere to be a part of me. So I think we have to let our kids know it's okay. And daddy don't know it all. Mama don't know it all.
No.
Come on, let's find this out together.
Yes.
Let's learn this thing. And every day, come up and challenge each other. Hey, man, guess what? Like my little nephew, I don't have any kids yet. My little nephew, I'm like, what'd you learn today? Hey, I found this person that did this thing. What did you learn? And he'll hit me back with something, you know? And so having those moments, my mother, it was something that was a part of me all the time, right? She consistently wanted me to know about all of the greatness that had occurred in the past.
Yes.
Because it informed where, like you all said, where we will go in the future.
Yes.
So let them know. Yeah, I remember I was in school at Reebok, man, geometry, I think it was algebra 2 or geometry. It was not working for me. And, you know, it just wasn't
good at
working.
geometry.
I'm a
Yeah, I get it.
communications guy, right? I like
Yes.
words. I don't like numbers.
I don't
you know?
like numbers.
Got a CPA. The more I understood that for me, it made sense because I was like, I can't do this. This is not for me. And then I was introduced to ancient Kemetic ways of designing that people are now today still perplexed as to how people that look like you and me with big lips and wide noses got blocks that weighed
In
tons
Egypt, yes.
up and created a pyramid.
Yes.
And created something so perfect that light from a special star once a year would shine down in the one spot and light up the whole,
Yes.
whole temple.
And we still can't explain.
And still can't explain that.
No, we cannot.
But I can't figure out this geometry problem. Please.
It's
So what
Come
do
on
we
now.
do?
It's
So on 3
already
days about
reset.
their math.
And that's why it got it to me because I'm like, I'm not going to let this get me. But I want to learn how we can do. And I can tell you, man, when I ran for office, I remember going, and I don't know why I knew to do this. I just did. I went back to Earl Johnson. His son was one of my mentors and a friend of the family. He had almost become Jacksonville's first black mayor. I went to Harold Gibson, who the man ran Skate City.
Yes.
He was on
Oh,
city council.
yes,
I
yes.
went to see Frank Hampton, Hampton Villa. Went to Mr. Hampton.
Yes.
Went to Betty Hosendorf, our former state senator. I went to Denise Lee. I went to these people to say, what is it that I need to do? And I'm not, and even now, when I ran for office, that wasn't a career for me.
No.
I love my city. I love this community. But I don't have to be elected to do the work that I do.
No.
I just had to do it at that point.
Point.
And so I went to them to find out what I could do to enrich and edify this community. And that's what we got to do. Just take simple steps.
Yes.
It ain't about grand things. Like, I do my thing at EWC. And I volunteer. I go to schools. I talk to people. I got a book coming out. But I do what I can do. That's what it's about. You do your part. You do your part. You do yours,
Yes.
yours.
Yes.
And then when we look around, our kids are going to be interacting with each other. Oh, my
Yes.
dad taught me that. My uncle taught me that.
Yes.
And then they start pulling the consciousness together, and that's how we change the world.
Exactly.
Just small steps.
Awesome. What projects do you have coming out that you want to highlight? What you have passionate about? What you got going on?
So my students at Edward Waters College, I just had a meeting about it. Like I said, I'm so passionate about Edward Waters. We are producing our first short film.
Awesome.
Yeah,
That's what's
so
up.
really
Shout out
excited about
E-Dub.
that.
Yeah, there
So
you
I'm gonna let
go.
y'all know we
Go
crowdfunding
Tigers.
this thing because I'm gonna
Okay.
put some money behind it, but we crowdfunding it. So look for that coming up in a couple weeks.
Okay.
That's like imminently. We actually just finished a class in production. That's coming up. I have a book coming out called Loving, Living, Letting Go.
Okay.
As I told you, my mother passed away from last year from ovarian cancer. And mom was very healthy, very active, and it just all of a sudden came out of nowhere. And I want this book. I've been writing poetry for years, but I've never really, I've done spoken word, but I never thought I'd publish it this early.
Yes.
That book's coming out. We're like 85% there to all of the,
With the editing and
design and all that stuff.
Trust me,
Yeah.
I know.
So it's coming out. I got a bunch of commercials running all over the country, so I'm blessed that that's working.
Yes.
Just finished this play.
Wait a minute. Speaking of commercials,
Yeah.
did I see you during the Super Bowl?
Yeah.
And was that the Bless the Mic commercial that you did during the Super Bowl?
No, that was another one, but that was I think I don't know. It's several commercials running.
Yes.
But the Bless the Mic
saw
thing,
you.
which
The
I
most
just
interesting man in the world.
Yeah.
just got a text. Bless the Mic is coming back March 26th, March or April
Okay,
26th. So I'm going to be
okay.
doing that with Millicent and I, the young lady who does it. We went to high school together. So
Okay.
she just said, hey, can you, she literally, the Bless the Mic commercial, I'm literally going somewhere else. And she texted me and she was like,
Just me.
we got to shoot this commercial. I need you, I need you, bro. I need you.
What
You were
is
there.
Bless the Mic?
Wait a minute. Wasn't no script.
Say it again.
And she was like, just write a poem. And I'm like, oh.
What is Bless the Mic?
So Bless the Mic is an event that features comedy, spoken word, singers, and a live band, and a DJ. Of course, Mr. Al Pete's the DJ.
Okay.
And
He's
it's
been
Shout
on
out
the
to Al
show.
Pete.
Shout out to
Al
Al
Pete.
Pete.
my little brother. We were in the band together at Reebok.
Oh,
Another Trojan.
okay.
Another
Okay.
Trojan. And
Itchy
so,
Bond.
So it is, but all, like DJ, live music, all this stuff, and it's an amazing event. It's at Cuba Libre, and it's for the grown and sexy.
Okay,
You know, we
okay.
all say grown and sexy, but like
I've
as I
seen
was,
the events posted by Al Pete.
it's really just a really fun time for grown folks to, like, you know, leave the kids at home, let your hair down, and have a good time, have a couple drinks. So it turned out to be a really amazing event. So it'll be, I'm almost positive, I think it's March 26th. She just sent me a text.
Okay.
That's coming up. And then I got a couple movies I'm doing at the end of the year. I haven't started production on those, but a couple movies
Okay.
that I'm excited. Just got some script in that I kind of gave my go-ahead, and those will be coming out too.
Coming out.
Yeah.
Very
What did
busy.
you have? Yes, he's a very busy man. And
I was
so-
going to ask him because he never got into how he came back.
It was so this is the most interesting story, man, how I ended up at Edward Waters as well. And we got time. I want the Nickelodeon thing, but I'll tell you that we got time. So I get here, Jacksonville, come back. I got my grad degree. I left the news. I was anchoring the news. Finished, went to New York to go to grad school. Came back and was going to hang out for a little bit because I've been working all my life. I need
Yeah.
a break. And I came home, and while I was here, I was going to sit here for 3 months, and I had a couple of job offers kind of waiting. And Nat Glover, my friend, my mentor, was the president of Edward Waters at the time.
Yes, he was.
And he was like, well, why don't you come over here and help us raise some money while you home? You know our people. So I went to EWC to help him raise some money and sat on some committee. And I certainly did not go to teach. And I had the degrees, but I was doing other stuff, man. And I was in this meeting, and they were like, well, we're going to have to get rid of these classes because we don't have anybody to teach them. And I'm like, well, I got the degree. You know, I don't know nothing about teaching, but I can tell them what I know.
Yes.
So but I do have the credentials.
Yes.
So I'll do that until you find somebody to teach the class.
And yet you're still there.
And that was a couple. And then so I got here. I have just planned to do it a couple semesters, and I was about to take a job, and we couldn't reach a contract agreement at this job, and then my mother got sick. And you know I wasn't going. You know,
Yes.
I'm an only child.
Yes.
Mom was an only child.
Signs. And you followed.
Mom got sick, and I was right here, and you know,
Where you supposed to be?
she died in my arms at the house.
Oh.
Yeah, I didn't put her in. She stayed right there with me. I took care of her till her last breath,
Jesus.
and we didn't know she was going. So she was, and I also delivered the eulogy at her funeral, and it was, you know, it was like I was supposed to be
To be
here.
there. You
Yeah,
were.
yeah,
You were. And
yeah.
then you
So
fell
that's
in
what got
love
me
with
back.
teaching. And you fell in
Yeah.
love.
And I think come on, I've always been a teacher. Like when I was on the news, what am I doing? I'm sharing information.
Yes.
When I was on Nickelodeon, that's the biggest classroom in the world,
Yes.
right? I'm sharing information.
Yes.
And this show, they had never had a black host of programming on Nickelodeon before. And they let me know that. Oh, yeah.
You say, oh, yeah.
Yeah, they let me know, like, if I
And you
may.
better appreciate
Do we
it.
have a second?
Yes, yes.
So this is how I got the job. This is why you just got to be available, bro. Like you got to be available. Sometimes we try so hard to get there and it doesn't happen. This brother, Daryl Allen Jenkins, and I, God rest his soul. Daryl passed away from cancer a few years ago. Daryl was on the set. We met on the set of First Time Felon. Daryl had an engineering degree from FAM. And so, we talking on set, first time felon, we trying to make this money. And we knew if you stay anywhere Tretch moved or on my mood, I was right there.
In the camera.
I was right there. And Tretch was over here. So Tretch was like, "Damn, you good, bro?" Like, man, Tretch, I was all, but I was on the whole movie.
Yes.
It got me what I needed and got my career started. So we finished First Time Felon. Daryl, back then there was no email. Daryl faxed me.
Good Lord.
Daryl faxed me what's called a breakdown. In the business, you get a breakdown that tells you, hey, we're looking for this kind of, this person to do this thing. They faxed me the breakdown. It says, we're looking for a white guy, blonde hair, blue eyes. I'm just saying, like, that ain't me.
Yes.
So I was like, dude, I called him. I said, what is this? Dude, that's not me. He said, don't look at what it said look like. Look at who he is.
And it fit your character.
It fit my personality.
Yes.
So I
Because
called.
you were the book type in the movie, right?
Well, no, this is this TV show. They were just looking for a host.
Oh, they were just looking for a host. Okay, I'm sorry.
So
I'm getting confused.
I
Yeah, he
get
was
there.
telling Nickelodeon.
I asked my agent. I said, "Can you get me an audition?"
5'10" light
The
skin.
agent told me no. She said, "You are a serious actor. You don't need to be doing that kind of stuff." That's And I'm like, "But they paying serious money.
Yes.
Like I gotta pay these student loans." So I left and I went and crashed the audition, which is something you don't do as an actor. They knew me on the back lot at Universal. I crashed the audition down in Orlando, and the guy who had auditioned me, John Peros, had cast me for other commercials. So here I am in this room. Remember I told you they were looking for blonde hair, blue-eyed white guys?
Yes.
And then me. So he comes out of the casting and curses me out. "Why you crashed my thing? Da, 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 da." He goes off on me, right? I then leave, feeling a little dejected, and usually the old me would have been like, "Who you talking to?" Would have went in. But I hit it out. As I was leaving, he came out, he laughed, he said, "I'll have your agent send you in to come next week. I'll put you on tape."
Okay.
I'm gonna run through this. This really happened. So I come back the next week to Orlando. He puts me on tape. I don't hear back from them for a year. I'm doing other stuff.
Yes.
I'm teaching. I'm planning to go to law school. Had taken the LSAT, got accepted. Big law school. I'm good. I'm getting ready to move my life. I get the call, come to Nickelodeon. So they flew me to LA for screen testing there, screen testing in New York. I passed all that stuff, psychological evaluations. I then am right before the night of my first show. Seema Zargami, who's the president of Nickelodeon, sat me down. We were at a dinner at Ruth's Chris. I'll never forget it. And we were sitting there, and she said to me, "You know how you got this job?" And I said, "Well, I auditioned." She said, "No. They were going to scrap the show. They couldn't find a host. They auditioned in Toronto, LA, New York, Miami, and Orlando and could not find a host. My tape did not show up. It was sitting in a box in New York, and nobody knew what it was, and nobody opened it. One Saturday morning, they were at the Nickelodeon offices. They opened the box. They looked, and they were like, "Well, there's nothing we could do. The show is just scrapped. Nobody to host it." They pulled the tape out. They were like, "What's this?" They put it in. My tape's there. Remember, they looking for a white guy.
Yeah.
So when they see me on the tape, they really weren't that interested in me, right? And they were about to take it out, but her son, who was like 8 years old, walked by at the time.
And saw the video.
And he was like, "Mom, who's that guy? He's cool." And stood there and watched my audition tape. And they were like, if he can stop an 8-year-old on Saturday morning up here in New York,
Yes.
he can stop the country.
Okay.
And that's how I got the job. So it let me know, even though all of the circumstances, it wasn't supposed to be,
Yes. When it's for you, it's for you.
exactly what it was.
When it's for you, it's for you. And that is Mr. Rockman Johnson, and why we had him come
The
on the
most
show.
man.
The most interesting man. I know, I love that. That's going to be one of the titles, Rob. The most interesting man in Duval. Okay,
Apparently
I like
somebody
that
didn't pay
when we
attention to
do the
their,
clip. Does anybody else have anything? But we're gonna go ahead and take a break and get ready to bring up 1 Mil ISO, getting ready to come up on stage. Thank our guest guys for coming in and sharing his time and space
Yeah, we
with
do. We
us.
appreciate
Thank
that,
you
brother.
so much. Join us back here live at the Cookbook Restaurant, 1827.